Hey everybody, Preston Brent here with our Trader User Group Weekly Roundup. This is for the trading week ending June 26, 2015. What I've got on the screen, as I always like to start these sessions off with, I have the E-mini S&P 500 futures, and let me just show you a couple of things on this screen here. And I'm gonna just let me just back out just a little bit here, and then I'm gonna turn my drawing tool on, and we'll kind of get this thing going here. So what I've done is I backed out to about the beginning of the year, just so that you can just kind of see where we are, where we're going, and how things are starting to shape up here. You can see here, and I highly recommend that all of you do this as well. I mean, it's something that you should do because the markets seem to find these key levels, and this year seems to be no exception. And the key levels that I'm talking about, obviously, is this blue line right here, which is the opening price of the E-minis for 2015. And then, of course, it's very easy to make adjustments as you go forward, because then I'll use red, and I don't care what color you use, just so long as you can be able to identify it on a chart very quickly. But I use red for the high and the low for the year, and then blue for the opening price. And you can see we've been in this channel probably for several years as we've been moving up. So we're still in an up mode. All right. So, longer term, the markets are still bullish. Now, that does not mean that it's going to stay bullish. Obviously, I don't believe it will. But you can see how we're doing here. And then you can see over this past few weeks, we had a really good trade right in here that we took, and we took it to the downside for those that are more active traders in our group. We had a breakout here, but now we're coming right back down, and we're touching this upsloping trend line here. And we really didn't violate it here. We just one day, but not really. And then the very next day, we just moved right back in again. And you can see right here, even though intraday we may have gone below the line, during the day we were able to close back up again. So we haven't really violated this for the year. But we're certainly seem to be challenging it here. And you can see these are other key levels that we're watching in our group right here. So what I want to do is let's just zoom in just a little bit, and just kind of take a look at where we are and where we could be going here. So as I told our members, we got a number of things on the front here. Now, all you got to do, you don't even really need to watch the news. You can follow the charts and the price action volume and a few other things will kind of tell you what's going on here. But you can see here that we came right down, touched this upsloping trend line, and now we're just kind of in this area here, which is kind of no man's land. Now, I would suggest to everybody, we got a high, and then we got a lower high pivot here, and we've got a low right here. So we've got this wider move like this, right? And that's just kind of how we're sitting right now. And the classic definition of a downtrend is lower highs, lower lows. So that would suggest if we're going to go lower, then this right here is going to be taken out. We'll probably settle on the 2055 area and even go lower. So it could look choppy, but something like that, giving us a lower low, right? And then a lower high right here. So now we're establishing a downtrend. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, because obviously this is the side of the chart you trade. I know a lot of you would like to be able to, in hindsight, see these things in advance, but with our members in our group, I kind of help folks just kind of lay out what the possibilities are and what are the odds of following one over the other. I do believe that if we don't take out this pivot high right here, then the odds favor us to challenge this pivot low right down here. Okay. Now, if we look at the charts here, there are a couple of things that you might argue that are on the horizon. So if we've got that as a pivot high, right? And I'm just kind of drawing it in, just kind of in general, so you can see it. So we're in this range bound here. I don't believe we're going to break out of this range until we get a definitive action on Greece. Once we get a definitive action on Greece. Now remember, definitive in the market's mind might not be what you and I would define as definitive. The market may just say, hey, if they kick the can down the road another 6 months, in our mind, that's definitive. We'll put it off on the back burner, and we'll trade price action or react to other things. But right now, if we get a definitive, and let's say the Greeks stay in the euro, I think we're going to probably break this upper side here. We're probably going to challenge these all-time highs, and then we're going to run into some resistance back up here. If you guys will recall, way back a couple of months ago, I said the upside of the market was 2%, maybe 3%, which put us around the 2150 area before we have a bigger pullback. At least that's what the charts were indicating about 2 months ago. Right now, we're stuck in this range right here until we get something out of Greece. I don't see a lot of longs being committed, but then again, I don't see a lot of shorts, kind of taking control either. So this is kind of where we're sitting. On a near-term basis, we are in a down mode, a slightly down bias, but that does not mean that's what's going to happen longer term. So right now, we're waiting on Greece. And let's say the Greeks get kicked out. We'll probably take out this part right here. We'll come down, we'll challenge the opening price of 2015, and then we'll probably come down very quickly, challenge the 200 EMA sitting right there, and then I think we're going to go lower. All right, so that's just kind of how the scenario is shaping up right now on the E-mini S&P 500 futures. But you can see from the high of the year to the opening price of the year, we're right here. So we're kind of thus far in the distance that we've made from the high to the opening price, right? We're almost right in the middle. We haven't really been able to do much. So you could say this is, from a Fibonacci perspective, it's about a 50% pullback from the highs if we use the opening price of the year. All right, so it's not a true fib. Because I would use different pivot points, but that we're sitting right at about 50%. All right, so, and that kind of makes sense. The markets are a little bit just kind of on edge right now. Now there are a lot of things coming out of Greece. I'm not going to talk about all the rumors. I'm not even going to talk about what I think, because if anybody tells you they know what's going to happen, they're crazy. I have no idea what's going to happen. But I'm just kind of giving you some key pivot points here that can change very quickly based on what they say. If we look at the Dow is not quite as pretty as the S&P 500. Again, using the same color scheme, you can see here on the Dow, and again, this is why I like doing it. You can see we sat right here, and it the opening price of the Dow was the support for this past Friday, and to some extent the past Thursday of this trading week. And that's the opening price. Now, there's the the 200 EMA, which kind of supported these areas right there. But we're well below the 50 EMA, okay? And we're sitting, I mean, just barely above break even right here. Again, here is the pivot high. Here is the pivot low. There's another pivot high right there. So we're going to be kind of sandwiched in that area right there and this area right here until we break, and we're sitting right there. So we're kind of in the middle of this market sandwich, if you will. Again, breaking that is going to be pivotable. I don't even know if that's a word, right? I just do not. Let's just get that out of here. I don't even know why that won't even delete. But anyway, it's pivotable. I guess I'm not able to talk, am I? But it is key to where we're sitting right now. So this is kind of what's happening in our markets right now. And the Dow obviously is much closer to the opening price, so we're more susceptible here. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, and you may say, well, gee, why is the Dow a lot lower? And it's very simple, or it's nothing's really simple in this market right now, but it's a little bit easier to explain. Look at the and we actually made new lows here, and you can see I'm going to adjust it right here. We made new lows in the Dow Jones Transport. We were previously kind of floating right around this area right there, and we broke it, and now we're down, and we made actually new lows on Friday in the Dow Jones Transport. We attempted to break out of right here, but we could not do it. Now the Dow Transports are really punishing the Dow. You can see that attempted breakout right there, and it stopped dead in its tracks. We had a 50 EMA crossing the 200 EMA, to the downside. Longer term, that's bearish. Here's this downsloping trend line. And you can see the blue line and the red line here. We open almost at the highs for the year. And then we've just been working our way down since the Dow Jones Transports, which is why the Dow just sucks right now. And you can see we made an intraday low, or actually a low on Friday of 147.28. Now that's why the Dow is getting hurt. And I can tell you guys right now that with the Dow Jones Transports this poor, and the other indexes, especially the Russell making all-time highs just a few days ago, something's going to have to correct pretty soon, and we've got to watch this very closely, because this is something that's teeing itself up. But this is why the Dow is just doing very poorly right now, and it's still moving down, the Dow Jones Transports. Now, if we look at Nasdaq's not doing as bad as the E-minis or the Dow. You can see Nasdaq has been riding this upsloping trend line, right? And I started this thing right back here, and right at the beginning, about the middle of January, this upsloping trend line for the Dow for the Nasdaq 100, which are 100 of the largest companies in Nasdaq, you can see this trend line just like this right here. And, there've been a little bit of going intraday below, but we've been able to stay above it. But we just have not been able to take out that high right there. This pattern right here, as I just highlighted, is a ascending triangle. The odds favor a break to the upside on this pattern. That does not mean to say that's what's going to happen. You can see we're testing it right now, right at the bottom right here as we go into the long weekend. A lot of people did not want to hold longs going into this weekend, and so we had a little bit of a sell-off. You can see as I blow this thing up right here, how we just have not been able to take out these highs right here. This is the third run at it right here, and we spent a couple of days at it this week, and then we just gave off, and we're sitting just above the 50 EMA on the Nasdaq futures. Still more strength in the E-mini, S&P 500, or the Dow, but it's showing a little bit of fatigue here, and if we just eventually can't pop out of the top up here, we're going to have a break here. It's winding up, because as you can see in this pattern, as I draw it right here, right like that, we're winding up here, and then we're either going to break up this way, which is what the pattern would suggest, or we're going to break down there one way or the other. I think the Greek crisis is teeing this one up quite nicely, and I can't tell you which side we're going to break. The pattern interrupt says we're going to be interrupted to the upside, and we're going to move up. But again, let's see how this thing plays itself out. Now, the strongest of the markets right now is the small and mid cap, which I would classify in the Russell futures. If we look at the Russell futures here, look at this, guys. We made new highs this past week on the 23rd, 24th. We were up there, and then we just kind of gave it up. But we made these new all-time highs in the Russell, 1292.30. And the opening price of the RUT for the year, the Russell futures, was 1203.90. So we are clearly we're right in this area right there, and here is the opening price and the range and the profit of the RUT for the year. So we're right at the top here of the profit range of the RUT for the year of the Russell futures, and the 50 EMA is right below my kind of a little bit of a support zone right here. So we've got a high, and we got a low, and we got a higher high here. So that would suggest any low right here is probably going to be somewhere in this area right here. We're not going to take this low out right here. So that would continue to suggest more upward momentum for the Russell futures. So you can see where money has kind of been going. It's been going into the small and mid cap, and that's kind of how we're sitting right now. So that's a little bit about what's going on right now in these markets. We've got a lot of other things going on in the bond market, the currency market. We made some good plays in the ag market. I pointed that out. We got some things going on in the oil and the energy sector. We've got some plays that we made at the currency side. Again, I would encourage all of you that are not members to come on over and check us out. We're doing well this year. I think it's going to get even more interesting. So I'd invite you, come on in. For our members, you'll be getting an invite. We got a session coming up tomorrow night on a weekly market watch going into next week, which will be a very interesting week for everybody, I am sure. All right, everybody, have a really great weekend. Remember, next week is going to be a holiday shortened week for the U.S. markets, which July the 4th, Friday, will be a big holiday week. So just kind of take that into account as we go into this next week. Have a good one, everybody. Ciao.